Thank you for listening today on Revealing Wholeness, sponsored by Infinity Whole Health. Check out our website at infinityWholeHealth.com, where we are revealing the eternal in each individual, the infinite in the individual. The creativity is made manifest. Limitation is let go. Now, here's your host, Dr. Troy Munson.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness. What do men need to kind of be watching for at each one of the decades of life? And we're going to take two at a time. And I know that, 0 to 20, they're not men, but suffice to say, they're going to be men. At least we hope they make it that long and that they do grow up. I've even threatened to grow up once or twice. But at this point, we want to kind of say what are some things that boys or young men are going to start going through, and what are some things that we need to be watching for. So, if we just take right at birth, what are some things that I'll see on boys or baby boys? And undescended testicles is one. And I've seen it in the office, and parents are saying, hey, what do I do? I've got my little boy here has got an undescended testicle, and they want to do some funky things to my child. I don't want them to do that. And ultimately, my thinking is that, okay, is there over estrogen in the boy? How is the mom? Might she have some estrogen issues? Is he nursing? What can we do? And so in this case, this is kind of something that we work on with actually the mom. And if she's nursing, hopefully, then we give the mom high zinc, because zinc for women strengthens their hormones, but zinc for men strengthens the male hormones. And so it works in both bodies the same way, but to their needs. So increasing zinc in my body would not make me produce estrogen or progesterone. But if you give it to a woman, it will. What will zinc do in my body as a man? Well, it's going to increase my testosterone. And so as we look at this little baby that may not have the trace minerals and the zinc that they need, we want to give them some things through the mom's milk that we can really fortify in her, and all of a sudden he starts ramping up his own hormones, and now that testicle begins to come down. So there's things that we can do. Now that's one idea. There's other things that I will do with a small child that will try to help make the testicles descend, because if you go to a medical doctor, if you look it up online, they're going to say, hey, if you have an undescended testicle, you now run the risk of testicular cancer. And so that's why they say, hey, these are some things that we want to make sure don't stay. So if that's something that you're dealing with, or have friends, or something that you've wondered about, please shoot me a quick text or message, and I'm happy to give you a little bit more information on that. The next is, as we approach the toddler stage, we love the terrible twos. I don't even like saying it, because ultimately 2-year-olds are not terrible. But if 2-year-olds don't have enough B vitamins that naturally calm and relax us, we will see tantrums galore. Now, mood and energy follow blood sugar. What does that mean? You've heard it maybe on other podcasts that I've said, but if I'm getting mood swings, if I'm getting happy one minute and I'm hangry the next, that is blood sugar mismanagement. And so what it means is that I need to do a better job about eating more frequently, as well as increasing protein. Not a lot, but a little. And so with children, if they're getting enough good nutrients, they're not eating a lot of sugar, they're not eating a lot of carbs, they're eating good fats, good protein, lots of vegetables, sweet potatoes, all the things that they should be, eggs with good solid yolk, everything like that, then they should be getting enough Bs, and they shouldn't be throwing a lot of tantrums. But if you all of a sudden notice that, hey, we've had 2 tantrums today, and you look back and say their diet is pretty stable, then there's one thing that I love to do with my tantrum children, and that's choline. Choline is a B vitamin. It was something like B23 or something way up there. Might have even been in the B80s. But we produce a small amount of choline in our body. And choline is the brake mechanism in our brain that literally stops that emotional cycle nature. If you've ever been in your head and really started cycling and getting angrier and angrier and angrier the more you thought, then you have a brake problem. You can't break that cycle through what we call the thalamus in our brain that literally starts lighting up and just cycling that thought until it just becomes a rage. So I love some of these rage monsters on YouTube. I think is pretty funny, but Because I think choline, I'm like, man, that person needs some choline. So tantrums, something we can solve, and I think pretty easily. Next is learning disorders. And learning disorders, or not having the ability to learn, is often a brain that is too keyed up. And if anybody's done any kind of research, you know that red dyes are really tough on the brain. You also know that sugar is really tough on the brain, and high fructose corn syrup and these synthetic sugars and the garbage that we put. And like I've talked about in other podcasts, very little sugar out there is not synthetic. What does that mean? It means that glucose and sucrose that we all are led to believe that is sugar, or table sugar, white granulated sugar, is actually synthesized in a lab. It is synthetic. Yes, our body converts it with invertase and other things to break it down, but ultimately real sugar coming from nature is dextrose. And so, like if we look at honey, it has dextrose in it. And it's a 70 in the glycemic index because it's not as damaging to glucose levels or to blood sugar levels like sucrose and glucose are, that are synthetic sugars that they can make in a lab really cheap and sell to the unknowing public and to all the bread companies and pastry companies and everything under the sun that they put glucose and sucrose in. They're not real sugar. And so it's hard on our body to process things like that. So learning disabilities, yes, we want to definitely go after cleaning up the diet and cleaning up dyes and things of that nature. But we also want to go after the natural sourced B vitamins that are very calming and relaxing. Like we just talked about choline. That's a B vitamin, but there's also the riboflavonoids, the inositols, all of these lesser B vitamins that are very calming. Niacinamide, they're very calming to the blood vessels, and they actually open up our blood vessels and start supplying oxygen better to tissues, and especially the brain. So now we can actually think a little bit more clearly and stabilize our brain better. And again, you can't discount blood sugar issues when it comes to learning disorders. So again, a little bit more protein, better fats, better vegetables, wise move for those with learning disorders. Now, as men enter puberty, we already talked a little bit about undescended testicles. What's an important thing for puberty? Zinc. Zinc, zinc, zinc. Now, we just can't take zinc alone. We do need, in order to process zinc into the body, we need vitamin B6. And so we need that in our gut in order to absorb zinc. And then we also need copper as zinc's counterpart to produce things like testosterone in a young man's body and go through puberty, well and successfully and grow and everything. So the body requires a lot of nutrient levels. And if we're eating white pasta and white bread and McDonald's every day, you are not doing so well. And so you're causing a lot of harm, and really puberty-wise, tough things. And so we're going to piggyback right on top of the puberty issue and talk about acne. So why acne? Why do so many men get acne? Well, the more sugar we eat, the more it's coming out our pores, the more the bacteria in our skin will thrive on that, and then clog our pores and causes it. Well, all the toxins that come along with all that food have to come out somewhere, and if our liver is atrocious because we have so many chemicals in our environment like we do, now it's coming out of the skin even more, and now it's clogging pores even more, and it's just causing tons of problems. And so we have this external infection, but guess what? If you see it on the skin, like I've said in many, many podcasts, you're looking at the gut too. If it's happening on the skin, you're going to see it in the gut too. And so we've got this massive infection that's going on, and what does a medical doctor want to do? High doses of vitamin A for acne, and they call it Accutane. But it's synthetic, and it's really hard on the kidneys. They watch your kidney numbers like a hawk because they're going to destroy your kidneys of your children by giving them Accutane. And of course, they might be upset with me saying this, but I'm just going to be a realist and tell things like it is. So why wouldn't we then do high vitamin A naturally? Well, of course you'd want to do that if you had acne. And so, sweet potatoes, one of the highest forms of vitamin A on the planet. The only thing higher that I know of is liver. Who wants to eat liver? Not very many people. But I have children that will chew liver tablets because they can smell it and they want it so bad they'll chew it. They actually like the flavor of it. It's wild stuff to watch. And so ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to do infection fighting, and I'm going to do vitamin A in a natural form, and I'm going to do big doses of it. And so I encourage them, hey, stop the crap in your diet and start getting your body healthy so that you can detoxify and not have acne. So it's a heart-to-heart with kids with acne, and I have to talk about their food allergies that they likely have and their gut issues. And of course, kids are like, I don't have any problems. They're often embarrassed when I don't know why we get embarrassed as kids. It's really kind of crazy. But ultimately, hey, it's just your body, how it's performing. So let's do something different because you didn't know. Now that you know, is it okay if you do something different? Is it not a good idea? And so things like that, can wipe out embarrassment. That's just all between our ears. And we really need to handle that aspect too. And that leads right into the next thing, and that's stress. As we get into this world, we put more and more stress on our children, younger and younger. I think we've actually gone a little bit the other way when it comes to athletics, which is awesome. You see all these parents that force their kids to do athletics to get whatever college, scholarship and what have you, but the kid's miserable in the sport. And so we put a lot of pressure, and then all of a sudden now these kids are approaching 18 and they're thinking, I got to go out into the world. I remember being there. I was scared to death. It's like, what am I going to do with my life? I guess I'm supposed to adult now, and nobody's even given me a class on how to adult. And, we're thrust onto this, and that's really taxing to the body. And it's also taxing to our adrenals, which are supposed to handle stress as well. And one of the podcasts I'm getting ready to do and look for this is on midlife crises. And so if we deplete our adrenals at a young age, being under tremendous stress and physical endurance and activities, we have adrenals that literally are tanking, and we're tired in the afternoon. We're drinking coffee as 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and 18-year-olds just to feel some energy, when they should feel completely alive and amazing at that age. And that just keeps right on going into adulthood, and we wonder why we're gaining weight, because now the adrenals being weak have overtaxed the testicles or the ovaries, and now that's taxed the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus, and now we don't feel good. Our mind is sluggish. We don't repair like we used to. Our organs are going downhill. We're getting all these symptoms, and now we're taking all these drugs earlier and earlier and earlier because nobody's told us there's a better, different way. And so we can really do some foundational things early on in life by recognizing these things. Last thing I want to talk about is physical injuries. A lot of athletics and a lot of guys do a lot of aggressive sports that can be very injuring. Case in point, just had a client come in, and he, in basketball, just got pummeled on top of his head. Heard vertebra pop in his neck. He's been sore for 4 days. He's basically have whiplash playing basketball. And you think, well, basketball is not that big a deal. No, basketball is a very physical sport, and it's like a contact sport. Not to mention football, not to mention wrestling, not to mention soccer. All these sports are so impactful that it's common to see injuries all the time. And I love the 30-something man that comes in and says, I've been having headaches now for like 5 years. Really, what happened? Nothing that I know of. Nothing happened, I say. Do normal people have headaches? No. Okay, so tell me what happened to you. What have you done all your life? Well, I played football for 8 years. Oh, that may be catching up with you, sir. And those are things that are common. So we're going to get to that when we come to the later decades of life. But we just covered age 0 to 20. So if I did not cover something that you think, I'd love some information on this, please feel free to message me. Shoot me a text or an email, and happy to include it, or even email you back and say, hey, this is what's going on there, and at least give you some insight and some wherewithal. And again, is this an exhaustive list? Am I going to diagnose your problems over a podcast? No. Like everything, make sure that you find somebody who is reputable, that knows what they're talking about, and can tell you some ideas about what your condition has involved. We're not expecting every physician to know everything, but as you with the condition, you will actually become the expert of your own condition. And what better way to learn about your own body than saying, hey, I wonder why I'm having X. And as you get this information, you know what? You now can pass it on to the next person, which is awesome, and help them along the way. So until next time, I hope this helped. I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach Dr. Munson at 893-8586 or email him at chiroman@dr.com. That's CHIROMAN @dr.com. Check out our current workshop schedule on Facebook at